Good afternoon. I'm Rick Salagi, the Executive Director for New England Livery Association, and I'm the least important panelist here today. Anna Vanderspeck is here. She is the Electric Vehicle Program Director for the Green Energy Consumers Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization based in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, with a mission to harness the collective power of consumers to accelerate the transition to a zero carbon future by making green energy, electric vehicles, and energy efficient upgrades more accessible and affordable. And Anna and I worked together. Those of you who attended our quarterly meeting back in April of 24, Anna was on our panel relative to EV. And in spite of that, Anna reached out to work with me some more. And so we connected in November, and here we are in early June. Lillian Zhu is with us. She's the Clean Transportation Manager for CalStart, which has a lot of employees, I believe, on the left coast. Lillian is in Boston, and she is the Clean Transportation Manager of CalStart. CalStart's a national nonprofit consortium and organization focused on building and accelerating the clean transportation industry. And we also have Gracia Maya, who is the Program Manager of Clean Transportation for the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, also known as MassCEC, which is a state economic development agency dedicated to accelerating the growth of clean energy and climate tech sector. Its mission is to help Massachusetts meet its climate goals while driving job creation, technological innovation, and long-term economic growth across the Commonwealth. And MassCEC operates through several core focus areas. Important to us in this conversation is clean transportation, incentivizing the adoption of electric vehicles and e-bikes for residents. And that's my contribution.
Thank you for the warm welcome and the introductions. It's honestly been a joy to work with NELA. I hope you actually call it NELA. Maybe I should be saying the New England Livery Association, but very excited to put on this webinar today and also see you all at the next quarterly meeting. As Rick said, my name is Anna. I work with Green Energy Consumers Alliance, but we're here to talk about this Ride Clean Mass program. I'll be doing most of the speaking today. We have a really brief presentation, and then we just want to leave lots of time for your questions so that we can organically answer the questions that you have and make sure you get the information you need. But Lillian and Gracia are here to help answer questions when we get to that piece. But I will basically just be explaining what the Ride Clean Mass program is, the basic benefits of EVs, and then I'll turn it over to you all to make sure we answer your questions. So, Ride Clean Mass, what is it? It is a program that, among other things, helps livery businesses in Massachusetts transition to electric vehicles, which I'm going to keep referring to as EVs, through a stackable financial rebate. As Rick mentioned, the program is funded by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center and managed by CalStart. So funded by Gracia, managed by Lillian's team. Green Energy Consumers is the sort of outreach education arm of this project, and the sort of boots on the ground will come to events team. The goal of the program overall is to provide rebates to support the adoption of somewhere between 600 and 900 electric vehicles through 2027. The program funds not just livery businesses, but also taxi businesses and TNC drivers. But obviously today, we're here to talk about livery businesses. In terms of the rebates, there are two available to livery businesses through Ride Clean Mass. One for new EVs and one for used EVs, and the numbers are impressive. So for a new electric vehicle, the rebate amount is $17,500, and for used electric vehicles, the amount is $12,500. This is just through the Ride Clean Mass program. In terms of eligibility requirements, the vehicle must have been purchased after the launch of the original program, which was way back in November of 2024. So if you're purchasing one now, it should be good. The vehicle must have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds or less if you're a livery business. The vehicle must be a full battery electric vehicle, so plug-in hybrids or traditional hybrid electric vehicles don't count. They have to be fully electric to qualify. The applicant must be a Massachusetts resident and have a valid license or proof of Massachusetts residency. And then as a livery business, you must provide a proof of livery, basically prove that you are a livery business, which you can do through proof of filing, a business license, or a business certificate. And then finally, as a livery business, you are able to apply for multiple purchase incentives. So if you want to transition more than one vehicle in your fleet, you can do that through Ride Clean Mass. Further sort of terms and conditions, things to know, again, must have a valid Massachusetts license or proof of residency, and you must retain ownership of the vehicle in Massachusetts for at least 36 months. Just a general blanket statement, program partners are not liable for denied applications if requirements are unmet. That's the basic legal statement we always have to make in these presentations. So if you're interested, here are the steps. If you go to ridecleanmass.org, there's a big friendly button in the top right-hand corner called Apply Now. If you click on that, you will submit key information via this application portal and agree to the terms and conditions. And within 2 weeks, you'll get an email notification saying, yes, you qualify, or no, for whatever reason, you do not qualify for this rebate. Then you can go out and purchase an electric vehicle wherever you would like to do that. And then once you've purchased the vehicle, you can apply for the rebate by submitting an application through the same portal that you did your eligibility check through. You basically upload new information, the purchase document, the details about what vehicle you purchased, and any other documents that are required in that process. And then within 2 weeks, you'll be notified of, yes, you're receiving this rebate, and then you should get your check in the mail after that. So our goal is to make this as seamless a process as possible and to give all livery businesses the chance to first check their eligibility so that you have that confidence when you go in to actually purchase the vehicle that, yes, you do qualify. There is a separate, thank you, Gracia, for putting the link in the chat. This also reminds me, everybody, there's a question and answers box. Please feel free to put questions in there, or we'll raise hands later, but send us all your questions. So Ride Clean Mass is this program that is specifically targeted at businesses that are vehicle for hire businesses, including liveries. There's a separate state rebate called More EV that you can stack on top of this as a business. So More EV is the general purchase rebate for electric vehicles for Massachusetts residents. It has slightly stricter requirements in terms of which vehicles qualify. But if you purchase a vehicle that meets the eligibility requirements of the More EV rebate as well, you can stack that More EV rebate on top of the Ride Clean Mass rebate to receive even more off the upfront cost of that electric vehicle. We can go into the details of the eligibility requirements for More EV if people want, but for right now, just wanted to give people a heads up to check if the vehicle that you're interested in is also on the list for More EV. And you can do that on the website, and the Ride Clean Mass website links directly to More EV. So hopefully, again, that should all be really smooth. But the point is there's a targeted livery businesses rebate and then a general rebate. And for new vehicles, you can add those together for up to $21,000 off a new EV. For used electric vehicles, the More EV rebate is only available for individual residents, not for businesses. So there's nothing to stack if you're thinking about getting a used electric vehicle. But for new, you can do that stacking. Then, sorry, my Zoom is failing me. Wanted to very quickly just talk about the benefits of electric vehicles. I know that it's a hard time out there with gas prices right now, so we just wanted to run through like why we think considering an EV for your business might be in your best interest. So the first piece to point to is that electric vehicles have lower operating costs than comparable gas cars. Part of that is maintenance. There's just fewer parts that break or need to be replaced. The machinery itself is a lot simpler. So over the life of the vehicle, you can expect lower maintenance costs. Then fuel costs, especially right now with gas prices as high as they are. switching to an EV can lower your fuel costs. There's a couple of good tools that we can point you to if you'd like to actually estimate, okay, if I'm thinking about replacing this specific vehicle model with this specific vehicle model, and this is my electricity price, and these are current gas prices, what do those savings look like? There's useful tools that can help you map that out because it does depend on what vehicle you're comparing to what. But in general, electric vehicles have lower fuel costs because they're much more efficient. They waste a lot less of the energy that you put into them. So that's a potential plus to look into and sort of tailor some estimates to your fleet, and we're happy to help you with that. And then, of course, there's less air pollution with electric vehicles. And in terms of your customer experience, it's a much smoother and quieter ride. These vehicles are a lot quieter, like noticeably quieter when you drive in them. They accelerate and decelerate really smoothly, so it's a more pleasant experience for your clients. I'm sure many of you have questions about charging, and I'm happy to go into that. But depending on where your businesses are located and how many employees you have and how many vehicles you have, you may be eligible for various state and utility incentives to install charging at your business. So there's one of the utilities has still some funding left for fleet electrification projects. So if you need to install chargers for a fleet, there's still some funding from a couple of the utilities across the state. But the Department of Environmental Protection also has a fleets and workplaces charging program, where they will cover up to 60% of the costs of installing charging. And I know I'm just floating that information out here. Happy to share more information in a follow-up email, but wanted to keep this presentation high level so that we could have as much of a conversation with the folks that are on as possible. So we're already at question time because we just wanted to get the key info out and then make sure we respond directly to your questions. So if you are an attendee or an accidental panelist, feel free to raise your hand if you have a question or put any questions in the Q&A. And while I stop sharing my screen, Gracia and Lillian, if you have anything you want to add while we wait for questions, please go for it.
Sure, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. And yeah, as she said, we welcome any questions. This is a new component of the program, which we're really, really excited about. And so any questions that you ask will only help us, further improve the program. So please let us know if anything is giving you pause, if you're confused about something. We're more than happy to support you along this process because I know it can be a big jump to go from a car vehicle to an electric one. But I myself have an EV, so I have some experience there. But again, yeah, thank you so much, Anna. And I apologize, I did not say thank you to Rick for helping us make this possible. But yeah, I don't know, Lillian, if you had anything you'd like to add as well.
Just echoing my thanks for Rick, all your support with this program, and Anna, as always, being an amazing community outreach partner.
Gotcha, go ahead.
Might as well. So, first of all, thank you for your presentation. That was absolutely wonderful. So for example, we do not own the building that we are in, right? So we cannot have the landlord installing the chargers. That's just not something that they would be interested in doing, even though we did explore that option. So primarily because you have to understand that we as livery vehicles are kind of a boon because our vehicles are out there 24/7 sometimes, right? They need to be running because if they're standing on the parking lot, they're not making any money, right? So, and it's a very hard business, especially right now. So the question is in terms of, our primary two concerns are the time of charging, right? And how many, the infrastructure of chargers that are around New England area. So for example, in California, the infrastructure is so well developed, it's actually sometimes easier probably to charge up your electric vehicle nowadays than anything else. It is not the case in Massachusetts. So what are you guys seeing from the state in that regard in our area for putting in more high velocity chargers. And, because again, besides also the fact that you lose about 30% on the charge during the wintertime as well, right? During the cold months. So all of these are huge factors for us to take into consideration. Thank you.
Great question. So I'll answer the questions I think I heard in maybe reverse order, and then you can tell me what I missed. The state has a parallel program. So the program that we talked about here today is called Ride Clean Mass. There's a parallel program called Ride Clean Mass Charging Hubs, which is trying to address that issue specifically by building 6 new high-powered fast charging stations across the state. Mass EC just released a press release about this, I think 2 days ago. The sites will be in Springfield, Worcester, Lowell, Brockton, Boston. I'm forgetting one. I can't count to 6 apparently, but the point of that program is to build more high-powered charging stations specifically for this industry, but also open to the public. In addition, you've got the State Department of Transportation that is working on spending the dollars they received from the federal government to build more high-powered charging stations along highways. All of that is speaking to the general build out of more charging. I understand that this is a very specific industry, and if you can't install charging where you park your vehicles, you are in a little bit of a pickle. What I would say is, have you looked at the charging that is around your business, or do you have a depot where the vehicles are parked overnight? Have you looked to see what is actually available around your area, or do you know how to find local charging stations?
So, for example, my vehicle is a hybrid, so I can find local charging stations at any point, right? But so yes, a local charging station would be can be found, right? It's just one of those situations where it has to be the infrastructure within the company has to change, the mentality has to change, right? So, for example, so it would have been a lot easier if we knew how much charging ability there is. Because I know, for example, at the airport for some period of time, the guys that went electric quicker than anybody else had to wait in line because, Uber was coming in, the TNCs were coming in, and they would just put the cars on charge and leave, right? And go off, have a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, delivery guys are standing there waiting. So that's making them late for their pickup, but it's the only place that they can charge. So these are all issues that are coming up, right? Which could lose business. So that's why I ask, because, it's one of those things where I know this will be a great thing because I understand that delivery vehicles also last longer, right? But at the same time, is the infrastructure there for us to be able to support this reasonably without losing business, right? So that's kind of one of those situations. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Keith, feel free to step in and correct me as always.
No, no, that makes perfect sense, I think.
It makes perfect sense to me too. I'll share my screen real quick and show one resource that I don't know if everyone is familiar with. But there's a bunch of different resources where you can look to find charging near you. Sort of baseline entry point that we recommend is this website called PlugShare because it shows you all the different networks on one map. So one thing you could do if you're trying to figure out, is this even possible for me, is look up your location and see what's nearby. So you can filter by like the different plug types. You can do a lot here and figure out, okay, only show me super fast stations or only show me level 2 stations. But the basics of it is you can plug in a location and then it'll show you where all the charging stations are. The ones that are orange are DC fast charging stations. So those are the very fast stations that'll do like 80% of the battery in half an hour. And so you can see, okay, this one is coming soon in Dorchester. It hasn't been built yet, but it will have 10 chargers. And these are the plug types it'll have. But okay, this one already exists. You can click on each of these little flags and see a picture of like, where are they? You can see what the cost is. And then you can also see other people using it and leaving little notes. So you can see if it's working or if there's often a wait or something like that. And then everything that's green is a level 2 charging station, which is a slower type of charging. This would be good if you park your vehicles overnight and kind of want to replenish what you're using in the day. But this might be a good first step if you're thinking about making the transition to kind of poke around just based on where most of your rides or most of your trips are, also where your vehicles are parked overnight, and just see what's available. A lot of the apps now will show you in real time if somebody is using the station, and some of them will allow you to reserve a certain time period. So we're happy to help walk you through this. We have a new little feature of like 20-minute consultations through the Ride Clean Mass program. So if you want to talk to someone specifically about your situation, we're there to do that. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knows PlugShare as a resource exists.
That's perfect. Thank you. Because believe me, my business partner would be in seventh heaven if we started getting EVs, but I've been hesitant.
Definitely schedule a consultation and we'll talk. I see a couple of attendees have raised their hands. David, I'm gonna welcome you to ask your question. If you're speaking, you're currently on mute. Hello, David.
There he is.
I see that you're unmuted, but I still can't hear you.
How about now?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Mine was about the charging too, because I do own my garage and I am on Route 1 up in a commercial area in Salisbury, Mass. So do those rebates still work with the charging ports if it's a public charger where you can sell electricity to and maybe get some money back on that? Or
it depends. Here, I'm just going to share my screen again, actually. So the program that you want to be looking at is called Mass EVIP. There's different buckets within Mass EVIP. I think this is the one that would be most relevant for most folks. It's for workplaces and fleets. You can see here the requirements are for employees EV use, if you've got 15 or more employees, or where's the fleet? Or fleet EV use at locations with 10 or more employees.
no, I'm a very small operator, but like I said, I run my car service in Salisbury Beach out of a house, and it is in a commercial zone. I'm talking about putting one in as a revenue stream for just myself and my business. Is there still grants for that, or is that all?
Yes. So you said it's out of a house?
Well, it's a duplex, but it's commercially zoned, and I've been running a limousine service out of there for 30 years.
Okay, it's commercially zoned. I think
it's on Route 1 in Salisbury, Mass. But yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think you would want to look at this one because it's public access charging. Yep. I can't remember. We can look real quick if there are rules about a minimum number of installations. But I think this is the one that you would want to look at. They just have rules about how to define publicly available. It would just need to be available like most of the time to everybody for it to qualify as publicly available. But you want to look up Mass EVIP public access charging.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your question.
Yeah.
I see Jane.
Yes, hi. I'm actually a neighbor of David's. I'm the owner of Cooper Coach based out of Newburyport. And I've actually been driving a Tesla now for close to 8 years. And so I just wanted to speak to what Katya was asking about. And the fact is, the Uber lot does have like a whole lot of chargers. So they've obviously been speaking directly to Massport, asking, if not demanding, more chargers and also the fast chargers. So the thing is, we've got 4 terribly slow chargers just for at the limo pool. And that is what the problem is. I don't think the problem is how many does Uber have, but the fact even the taxi pool has fast chargers. But the limos, we've been neglected. So, Rick, are you in charge of Neela, right? Is that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jane, excellent point. And I was in an email conversation with Mike before he left Massport, retired. So I will be happy to pursue that again. But we did put in a request months ago for additional level 3 chargers at the limo pool. So I will follow up on that.
Yeah, that's what is going to help, certainly, because I will plug in. I don't depend on that charge because, again, what Katya said, you can't spend half your afternoon just trying to fuel up a bit. You're going to run yourself out of business right quick. So they installed these slow chargers, but really they're useless. They provide most of 20 miles worth of charge per hour of charging. So of course, any ground transportation can't afford to spend that kind of time. So you gotta have, so there's, the first question is, why would they even bother to install them in the first place? And I'll plug in only because, it's a nice parking space, but it's not like it's not serving me. Now there's Tesla superchargers relatively close by, but really what we want and need are fast chargers at the airport, at the pool. And so that's what I figure is the most logical solution is Massport needs to install fast chargers at the limo pool. Because I don't blame any owner to say, well, I ain't doing this if the fuel isn't convenient, and especially at the airport. And if Massport has done it for Uber and even for the taxis, obviously the limo pool should also have these fast chargers. So Rick,
Jane,
if you're part, you can have influence on that.
Jane, so thank you so much. A quick couple of questions or point out something and then ask a question. So we were at the limo pool pretty much all day last Tuesday. And there was one, and maybe it's the only one, there was one charging port there near where we were, actually near the DJ for our event. And there was one car parked there all day long. And
was it,
go ahead.
Yeah. Was it a gray Tesla?
Could have been, I don't know.
Okay. And?
Yeah. So how many would be, from your estimation, an appropriate request for us to ask for at the limo pool?
Well, first of all, employees of the airport seem to have access to our chargers. So that's why I asked if it was a gray Tesla, because I see also if, every once and again, different employees come in, plug in, and then they, go off for an 8-hour shift. So now of 4 chargers, one of them may be occupied for, the entire day. So I wouldn't know, right? Build it and they will come, we hope, but you don't know. And there are certainly more EVs now, the Caddies I've seen, and some of the hybrids and a Volvo, and some other Teslas. And I'm considering a Rivian R2 is just coming out. So the point is, go take a look at how many are at Uber and say you want that many, for goodness sakes. It could be up to 10. It's mad, it's wild. I'm very envious. Ask for 10, we'll get 6.
Yeah, I tend Rick, I tend to agree. I would ask at least for 10 because of the fact that, yes, they might be just not showing up knowing that there is no access at Logan and trying to figure it out otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that we would be surprised, very surprised to see the adjustment because the rebate is wonderful. But if we as operators do not have the infrastructure necessary in order to be able to support that, then you know what I mean? What's the point? So
Oh,
yeah,
I totally get it. Absolutely.
And I can tell you, it does get very difficult during the winter. So I'm older, so I'm not as hungry, and it's just me. But if I was responsible for a larger fleet, and a handful of drivers, and I had to really run the cars, oh Lord, I would be nervous to commit unless the fuel was readily available. Yeah, because it's hard enough if you have to take 20 minutes to fuel up, at least. Then, yeah, see, I don't have quite that pressure, just because, I'm committed to clean energy. But for someone who's got a fan, you know what I mean, the pressures. Yeah, you need the fuel. I mean, it's interesting. You don't even realize when I got my first Tesla, it struck me, oh, I need to install a charger before I even take delivery of the vehicle. I mean, you need a fuel source, So obviously that's what I arranged for. So yeah, fuel is critical. Everyone expects a gas station on every street corner. We don't need that for the EV chargers, but we certainly don't have near enough. And especially if you want to promote it, it's got to be at the airport and you got to get as many as possible.
Yep. So thank you, Jane. And we have a message from Dave Wolpert saying we need a dozen level 3 chargers. So I will actually, we have a new contact that I met last Tuesday, and I will resurrect my thread that I had with Mike Hadley and try to get that moving. And I will update you on my progress.
Cool. Nice. Thank
Absolutely
you.
heard on the need for more EV charging infrastructure. I did want to direct your attention to, if you search up BP Pulse in Everett, this is a charging depot of 24 chargers, including 2 charging cabinets with 4 charging ports that are capable of supporting 400 kilowatt charging speeds, which is enough to charge most cars 10 to 80% in around 20 minutes or so. It's about an 8-minute drive from the airport, and they just energized this station around a year ago. But I wanted to make everyone aware that there is definitely the demand for more EV charging near and around the airport. And while I'm certain Rick will be pursuing his lead with Massport, in the meantime, I wanted to direct your attention to the BP Pulse station in Everett.
Oh, Lord, you can't get there from here, for goodness sakes, with Boston traffic. No, I ain't doing that. But anyways, yes, no, that is helpful. But we need it right at the airport. We just do, because that's like if you had to walk 3 blocks down the street in order to access your computer, to get your work done. That's what it's like for us out on the road. It needs to be wicked convenient. So can I ask you a question while I've got everyone's attention? Which is my first most important question is, can I still qualify for this rebate even though I'm already driving an electric vehicle? Or is it only for those who are currently driving a gas car wanting to transition?
If you oh, sorry, Lillian, you're the rules person.
Absolutely. As long as you're purchasing the vehicle to be used by your livery company, there's no limit on whether or not you can receive the rebate based on if you already have an electric vehicle. In fact, even if you already have an electric vehicle and you just like to replace it with a newer model electric vehicle, you still qualify for the rebate.
That's exactly it. Great. And I just want to let you know, I so much appreciate this program, obviously, especially because we ain't getting a rebate from the feds. So here it is, and even better. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Jane. just want to second Heard on the Massport issue. I think they'll listen to Mass CEC and Neela more than they'll listen to us, but we'll also bring that up. I wanted to circle back on one thing just for folks who might not be familiar with the different levels of EV charging. I want to make sure people understand the difference. So what Jane was talking about was level 2 chargers that charge up, like they add maybe 20 miles of range per hour spent charging. They're lower cost install. So if you domicile your vehicle somewhere overnight and can charge them up overnight, that's a great choice for that use case. What we're talking about, the need for at Logan Airport, is DC fast charging stations. Those are high powered. Those are much harder to install, like for your business, because they're more expensive, but they can do roughly 80% of the battery in half an hour. So it depends on which vehicle you're driving and which charger you're using and how empty your battery is when you start charging, but they're the ones that you would use to sort of top off during the day, the way you might go to a gas station. So I just want to clarify that we're not talking about EV fast charging as being just 20 miles of range per hour spent charging. That's level 2, which makes sense for overnight charging, and then DC fast charging during the day. So I just wanted to make that distinction. I see a question in the Q&A from Terry about what is the cost of installing a charging station in case there isn't funding. This is a question that unfortunately is best answered with "it depends," because it really depends on the state of the electrical infrastructure in the building that you're talking about. For a level 2 charging station that you would use to charge up overnight, it might be a couple thousand to like $10,000-ish if you're installing like one with 2 ports. There's a range depending on, do you already have 240 volt electrical service where your charger is? Do you need to like do any trenching? Hopefully not, because trenching is expensive. So those are the factors that determine a little bit the variation in cost. A DC fast charging station is a lot more expensive, and quite honestly, I think it makes more sense for most businesses right now, unless you've got like a fleet of 100 vehicles that you want to electrify. I think level 2 at your business makes more sense than DC fast charging, because that can quickly get into the tens of thousands of dollars because it's a lot of power. But I think it is, hold on, I took a note. Eversource has run out of funds, but National Grid still has funding that covers the infrastructure upgrades for workplaces that have fleets. So if you needed to do any trenching or pull a new 240 volt line to wherever your vehicles are parked, that might be funded through the National Grid, fleet charging program. So if your business is located in National Grid territory, definitely look at that. And if your business is located in territory where you've got a municipal light plant instead of National Grid or Eversource, some of those do have incentive programs for charging as well. So if you're in an MLP territory, take a look at your electricity provider's website to see if they've got any resources. But Mass EVIP is available for anybody across the state.
I'd also like to direct your attention to the Massachusetts Fleet Advisor Program, which is also funded by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. If you own or operate a fleet that is a minimum of 3 vehicles in size, with at least one of those vehicles being a medium or heavy duty vehicle, you qualify for the Massachusetts Fleet Advisor Program, which is a completely free consultation program aimed to provide one-on-one support via a fleet electrification report for any fleets looking to electrify. This would include an in-person site assessment, the total cost of ownership analysis, vehicle to market inventory analysis, charging analysis, and next step recommendations. So the Mass Fleet Advisor folks have entire teams of electricians that are able to come on your site, give you a personalized site visit, and inform you of which chargers would be right for you, which chargers work with the current electrical system, and give you multiple quotes for cost estimations. Just wanted to shout out the Massachusetts Fleet Advisor Program.
Any other questions? Jane, I see your hand re-raised.
I know. I do have another question.
No, it's great.
Okay. I usually don't like all this much attention. Okay. So I was actually starting to work my way through the application, and it asked for my income, and I was just wondering, how does that impact impact the application? How is that relevant?
Which application are you referring to? The Right Food
Your-
Mass one?
Yours, yes.
Lillian, take it away.
So the income question has no bearing on whether or not you receive the eligibility or not. It is simply in place because this is a state-funded program and the primary audience includes Uber and Lyft drivers as well. It is in the best interest of Mass CEC to collect data on income so that they can see if they're hitting their environmental justice or similar goals for their government organization.
Okay, great. Good answer. Thank you.
But again, no bearing on whether or not you receive the rebate or not.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
And I assume there's no restrictions on how many vehicles, right? So
That's correct.
excellent. Thank you.
The funding is there until it runs out.
Oh, okay. That's an important one to remember.
Go ahead, Rick. Yeah.
And this funding that can run out is inclusive of TNC's, taxi, as well as livery. Is that correct?
TNCs have their own bucket of funding, and taxis and liveries have a separate 1.1 million set aside just for them.
Okay, great. I resurrected my last email, and it was back in mid-March relative to Logan's Chargers. So anyway, I have found my thread, and I will follow up. When so this is being recorded and will be made available. There's been a few times where websites and other information has been mentioned. I want to make sure we capture that as well.
I will send out an email to everybody who's registered for this, and I'll share the recording and then all the various websites that we either shared screen or put in the chat today.
Sounds great. And Anna, you and a few other people will be attending our June 23rd quarterly meeting.
We're looking forward to it. It'll be me and Grecia and then one other person, but we'll have a table to talk about the program, and then we'll also have a little bit of a probably very similar presentation and conversation, but hopefully we'll get to meet some of you in person there.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Okay.
I want to
Well,
thank you all for your time and the feedback. Sorry to interrupt you, Rick, but I do really appreciate the on the ground reality check of all of this. So we'll go talk to Massport.
We will. All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.